Hi, I'm Hector Garcia, accountant and business consultant. One of my favorite things to do with my clients is to help them uncover, create, or recover value when they're designing their products and services. And the most important thing about the value of the product and services is that typically it will command the price. So if you got a product and service as a commodity, it's hard to command the price. You're typically going to have a race against the bottom for price because it's a commodity. But if you have a product or service that is unique, or you want to design a product and service that is unique, you want to make sure that what the customers value or what the product can create in terms of value is loud and clear, and the customers are willing to pay more for a product and service that has a well-defined value that it creates or generates for its customers. I was reading an article called 30 Elements of Value, and I'm just going to go to Google and type it. So I'm just going to type 30 Elements of Value and show you kind of where this comes from so you can use it as a reference. So the first two, one is from the Harvard Business Review. I'm going to go ahead and click on that one. And the other one is from Bain and Company. I'm going to click on that one because it's got basically two links. So the one from Bain and Company, it's the very first one, so the first one that was released, and this is by the author Bain and Company, which is, to my understanding, the biggest or one of the biggest management consulting firms in the world. And that's, you can click on it, and it's kind of an interactive pyramid, and you can click on every element, and it kind of explains to you what each one is. However, I recommend that you take a look at the Harvard Business Review article because it has some interpretation of it, and it will be a similar interpretation than the one I'm about to give in this video, but I recommend that you check out the article as well, because it does make some explanation as far as why is there a pyramid and why is it in order, etc., etc. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to break down the pyramid, and I'm going to explain each of the elements of it. Now, I can't do much of a zoom in, so we're going to be able to see them here. Before I break them down, let's then take a look at the major categories. So we have, all the way at the bottom, we have functional, then we have emotional, then we have life-changing, and then all the way in the top, social impact. So what Bain and Company assumes things, or what they're trying to present here, is that as consumers, we may be looking at all these elements every time we evaluate whether or not we should purchase a product, or maybe we're just making sure that the product or service does hit or satisfy some of those elements. Let me explain one by one, and we're going to start with functional. So the first one is saves time. Okay, not the first one, but the first one I'll talk about. So does this product save me time? Will I be able to work faster or not have to do a certain piece of work because I bought this product? Simplifies, reducing complexity. Something that used to be complex before I bought this product or I used this service, and now it's simple. Then we got makes money. So that's self-explanatory. Any product or service that helps me make money means I get a return on my investment, and that's an element of value. Reduces risk, like insurance, okay? Or does the company take some of the risk by guaranteeing a result or giving a 30-day money-back guarantee? That sort of thing. Organizes, okay, that basically says, can this product help me become more organized, help me organize my thought or my things? Then you got integrate and connects. So does this product and service connect with other products and services? Does it help me connect with other people? Does it help me connect with other aspects of my life? We have reduces effort, it's kind of like saving time and simplifying. So will this help me reduce effort? So buying oil, right, or any sort of grease to push something through, a hole or something, that will reduce effort. So anything that reduces friction, that will essentially, obviously, simplify my life or save me time. So those are very interrelated. Avoids hassles, right? So buying from you or buying your product and service, is it hassle-free? Do I have to jump through hoops, or is it pretty simple or easy to return or something like that? reduces costs, right? So does this product itself help me save money somewhere else, right? Does this product or service reduce my cost somewhere else? Quality, right? This is the one that most people think about, right? Does the product have high quality? Is it accurate? Will it last me a long time? Will it work? Is it safe? That sort of thing. Variety is really important. Like the customers want to know and feel that what they're buying, that they're not stuck with just one choice, that they're given choices, right? Any product that has accessories and is adaptable or expandable, that adds value. Sensory appeal, obviously, is it beautiful? Is it tasty? Does it smell good? Is this something that bodes well with my senses and informs, right? Does the business providing this product or service enhance my knowledge, give me access to more knowledge? Obviously, almost anyone buying a newspaper or buying a book is doing it because of the informative value of it. Now let's move over to emotional. This is the second layer of the pyramid, and let's go through them. So we have wellness and therapeutic value, very similar, right? So will this product or service make me feel better, improve my personal, physical, emotional, mental state? Therapeutic value, does it reduce stress? Does it make me feel good and relaxed, that sort of thing? Fun and entertainment, obviously, movies, in certain cases, restaurants, bars, shows, theater. That stuff is going to give me fun and entertainment value. But I want you to think of any product and service that can provide fun and entertainment value. I mean, this is the idea behind having this pyramid, is not to identify these elements with a particular product and service that already exists. It's actually the other way, is to think of your existing products and services or something new you're going to design that typically does not provide that element and kind of throw it in there. I mean, that's something that I do. I'm an accountant, and I try to add some fun and entertainment to our engagement. So when I work with clients, I try to make them laugh, tell them stories. Although most people don't think of accountants as fun entertainment people, I make sure that I am, or I make the extra effort to do so. So that this is really the point of this video, is that you think outside the box when it comes to what most people think is the traditional element that product and service that should have, and take a look at all the ones that it doesn't have and see where the opportunities are. Now, attractiveness, right? So does it make the person feel more attractive, or does that product or service give the person that's buying it the power to attract more people, right? So that's kind of what that means. Provides access, obviously, any product or service that will give you access to something else, access to another person, access into a physical place, access into additional information that's not available to the public. That's really mostly what it is, like a product or service that goes through a paywall, and then it opens up things that the public usually doesn't have access to. Then we have batch value. That's really, really important. A product that gives that person a badge or the feeling that they earned something, or the feeling of success, like an expensive watch. People wear, they hope that people notice, so they infer that the expensive watch, the nice Rolex, gives them a badge of success. Design or aesthetics, right? I mean, Apple computers really stands out in this. They make sure the design is the very most important element of the products, because they believe that human beings use these products, and then if they're well designed and they're aesthetically pleasing, people will like it. Nostalgia, that's a really interesting one. Anything that reminds people of their past, it's something that people add value to. Like you see the explosion of vinyl, people buying LPs, right? Because it's how they used to do it. Or even fashion does that a lot. It sort of comes back. Fashion comes back and gives that person the nostalgic feeling. Or you see repackaging of a CD, a music album that came out 20, 30 years ago, and it gets repackaged, right? And it's got some nostalgic element and people buy it. Now, rewards me, this is really interesting. This has to do with getting points or rewards for purchasing, right? So airlines are the masters of this, right? They want to hook you in with their airline by giving you miles, right? Reduces anxiety, right? Of course, just like wellness or therapeutic value. So anything that makes the person physically feel better, is going to have some value. So that's the emotional one. Now let's move on to life changing, and then this is where it goes from sort of functional to life changing and to the social impact. And the higher up we go, the deeper it gets into the customer's heart, and the more that it evokes loyalty, and the more that it evokes that gut feeling type of purchase. So most of us, we try to buy in an intellectual fashion, right? All the way in the bottom, everything on the functional stage. We want the products to make sense. We want to buy best bang for the buck. We want to compare feature by feature, and we want to make sure that if it fills all the functional elements. And most people, I think, design their products wrong, thinking that consumers only care about the functional elements, but these emotional and life-changing elements actually tend to be more and more important as time goes. And when you look at the most successful companies, you see that they're not really they don't provide the most optimal, functional, effective type of product. They really hit more the life-changing emotional area of the pyramid. So here, life-changing, we have provides hope. So obviously, anything that makes the person feel optimistic, that gives them a positive vision of the future, that's a huge element of value. Self-actualization, anything that gives that person a sense of accomplishment, a sense of making it or achieving it. So anything that gives that person sort of that pride, that product or service took you, not similar to batch value, but it's more transformational, I would say, from a personal perspective. So it transformed me. It took me to the next step, next level, whatever. Then we have motivation. So anything that would give me. It's kind of similar to hope, but it pushes me. So anything that pushes me, motivates me to do something else, do something more. That's gonna have a high value. This is why people buy book on tapes, of Tony Robbins or all these authors that motivate you to be better, to do better. That's because it has that life-changing motivation element. Now here, Loom, this is interesting. This is whether or not the product or service is perceived to something that they can retain or pass down generations. So is this product something I can transfer to my children? The reason why people buy jewelry, expensive watches, big houses, thinking that if something happens to me, this is something that gets passed down. So people place a lot of value in that, especially for sort of the big expensive ticket items. And then we have affiliation and belonging, right? So buying this product gives you access to being part of a group, or gives you affiliation. Country club, of course, right? You pay the super expensive country club, but then you're part of that group and you have that affiliation, and there's a lot of value there. And then the last one all the way in the top is the social impact. Now, this pyramid assumes that the ultimate goal that every human being has is to help others beyond helping themselves. Now, I'm not sure what my opinion about that is. I do believe some people are motivated by the capacity to help the world and society, and some sort of stay here in life changing. So I believe that there's space for both. But you see a lot of the new companies from the past 10, 15 years, when they have a purpose, or they have as a mission, self-transcendence, where they do what they do, but part of their profit goes to help children in Africa, give them shoes or whatever, like Tom's Shoes does. This Bain and Company believes to this pyramid that this is ultimately what people want. Now, I personally don't know if that's what ultimately everybody wants, but assuming that they do, this is the part of social impact or social responsibility that maybe your brand needs to have to be able to reach those folks. Okay. Now that being said, there's a really important point I need to make. Value is subjective. Okay, every human being buys something or a product or service based on whatever was going through their head at that particular moment of decision making. Sometimes this is totally logical and sometimes it's totally illogical. I don't think anyone should design a product or service based on this sort of cookie cutter approach of taking these 30 elements and make sure you hit each of them. Okay. However, if you do at least have an open discussion with your team when you're designing a product or designing a service, or maybe revamping a current one, it's important to kind of go through each of these and ask yourself, how does my product and service affect this element of value? Or how are customers that value this element perceive our product or service satisfies that? And it's a good exercise to make. Again, not the only guide to use, but it's a pretty interesting guide to use. And I've been using it in my business, and it is interesting that sometimes when I'm designing a new product or service, I tend to forget, that certain people value certain aspects and certain don't. So at least I want to have the conversation, with my team or even with myself if I'm having a self-dialogue about the new product or service I'm creating, to just make sure that I'm at least being open-minded or being completely open about how any of these elements affect my customers, and making sure that the product or service that I'm designing can satisfy most of these, if not all of these. Anyway, I hope this video was useful. You may need to watch it a couple of times or check out the website itself, check out the pyramid, read about it, kind of read the article, both the one from Bain and Company and the Harvard Business Review article. They're excellent and they're a great food for thought. So anyway, if you like it, hit like, add some comments below. We'd love to have a conversation about maybe some elements of value that were not included here. So I would love to know what you think about how complete this pyramid is. And also maybe you want to have an open discussion about any of the particular elements. I would love to. So add some comments below, hit like, and subscribe to the channel. Thank you.